Hey everybody, welcome to Performance Anxiety. And before we start the show, I want to say thank you to AKG for sending me their Podcaster's Essential Kit. It's got a great Lyra mic and some amazing headphones that I use on every show. And if you're thinking about starting your own podcast, this is the perfect way to get into it affordably with a high quality product. Christopher Harold Wells joins us on this episode. And growing up, his house was full of music and sports. I mean, his dad was a linebacker for the Philadelphia Eagles. But Christopher's passion was music. He's jammed with some incredible people like Lauryn Hill and Bubba Sparxxx. He's released an album under the name The Neverlutionaries, and it's a wonderful mix of genres and styles. The album was recorded at world-famous Hyde Studios and was produced by Jameson Durr, who's produced albums by Sammy Hagar, Wyclef Jean, and Joe Satriani. The album features performances by guitarist Kenny Olson of Bootsy Collins and Sheryl Crow, drummers Chris McGrew and Nick Baglio from Gucci Mane, and guitarist Johnny Axtell from the Psychofunkopus. Follow Christopher and the Neverlutionaries on social media. They should be pretty easy to find. Pick up the self-titled album and follow us at Performance ANX. Buy us a coffee at ko-fi.com/performanceanxiety. Give us a review wherever you listen. And pick up merch designed by Mark Dancy of Soundgarden's Bad Motor Finger fame at performanceanx.threadless.com. And now let's slide right into this discussion with Christopher Harold Wells of the Neverlutionaries on Performance Anxiety, part of the Pantheon Podcast Network.
Okay, hold on for a second. I gotta get the show name in there.
So,
this is Christopher Harold Wells from the Neverlutionaries, and you're listening to Performance Anxiety with Mark Shea.
well, thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate you taking the time to come and chat with me, man.
Oh man, I appreciate you having me and taking an interest enough to want to chat, man. That's for me. That's super awesome.
What I like to do is what I'm sure you've done a million times is to find out a little bit about where you've come from to kind of figure out how you got to where you are now with the new album.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you've done this, in every interview. So some of these questions may not be new, but my listeners may not have heard the same interviews of you that I have.
Right.
So.
And Mark, yes. I'm someone where I'm easy. Whatever you need, I'm not the guy that's going to be like, I don't know.
Oh, good.
I've answered that question too many times. I look at it as kind of a really cool thing when you can create something and someone gives a damn to even want to talk to you about it.
Well, I understand. Believe me, I understand that.
So I take it at that level. So I'm easy, man.
Well,
that works for you.
I appreciate that. So, all right. So first of all, I do try to do as much research as I can on each one of my guests. And so I was listening to a couple interviews you have done recently. And I did want to say that I hope your dad's doing okay. I hope he's recovering well.
Oh, he's recovering well. He's back at the house. He's good to go. And
good.
Chatted with him this morning and he's fine. So I'm lucky, and that's behind us. So just looking forward to the future.
Good. So, and your dad is I don't think you're ever a former athlete, so I'm going to say he's an athlete. And he actually ended up playing with the Philadelphia Eagles. He was a linebacker for the Eagles, right?
Yeah, he did he played his college ball at Purdue.
Oh, nice.
He was a Boilermaker. And then he went and played with the Eagles, Giants, and Falcons. Might have the order kind of, middle linebacker, great guy, musician.
Yeah. Okay. So he was an athlete and a musician. Was that where you get your musical ability, or tell me a little bit about and I hate, and I just did what I hate. I hate when interviews could talk to me about this or tell me this, because then you're just narrating. I want this to be a conversation. So I want to know more about your family's musical history, because I know there's quite a bit there, especially on your dad's side.
Right. Actually, on both sides, my father actually played saxophone, and he was actually chosen by W.C. Handy, who's the godfather of the St. Louis Blues.
Yeah.
To play in his, he would go around and get a few kids that were, good musicians from different schools in the district and kind of pick and choose the players and have them learn a few of his tunes and kind of play them in front of dignitaries, local people, that kind of thing. And my dad did that back in the day. And then then his father, my grandfather, played trumpet back in the day.
That's awesome.
And then I had a couple of cousins, Bridget Wells Dabney and Brandon Wells. They were rapping back in the day.
Oh, wow.
I mean, like early. Like she even had my cousin, rest her soul, she even had a record label. She was a pharmacist by the daytime, and then she had a record label at night.
That's awesome.
So she was a phenomenal person and a big influence on me. And she actually played bass. I remember this one time I was visiting St. Louis around the holidays and sitting in my grandfather's living room, and there was a trumpet in there, and I was kind of thumping on the bass, and it wasn't the dream thing of all of us jamming, but we were all in the same room.
Yeah.
And kind of vibing. And even on my mother's side, my grandfather, Melvin Hamilton, he played piano and violin.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And he was an educator. He was, so I come from some pretty rich stock.
So, yeah. You got
people doing their thing,
You got quite the esteemed background.
Yeah. And then my great-grandfather Alexander on my mother's side, he was a person that loved to cook and loved music and that kind of thing. So literally that's what I love, cooking.
Oh yeah.
And I love music, and it's literally something that in life, when I've gone against the natural grain of who I was supposed to be, it's like, why isn't anything working out? And nothing would work out. And then when I do the music, all these little nifty magical things start happening and the stars start aligning. And luckily enough, I've been smart enough to see when that's happening and to kind of go and just roll with the tide.
Hey!
And just kind of go with it, and just become one with the energy per se, and let it dictate what it does and get ready for the journey. I think we all have like a little journey that we're supposed to be on. We all have our own national championships to win. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. And some to lose. Yeah. But it's just one of these things where I just feel it's being a musician to me when I was, back in the day. I started playing the guitar to get girls. Oh, yeah. Because I was a goofy kid and I was a nerd in high school, and I didn't really have much going on for me. And I kind of had that weird, nerdy humor where if you're not like, my friends were like, that was really funny. But everyone else is like, dude, you're corny. Yeah. So I needed something else working for me, something else with me to help me on my journey. And that was guitar. Had a good friend of mine in high school, and he would always go around with this guitar, and I was like, who's this guy walking around with this guitar all the time? And the girls were like, oh, can you play? Can you play? And I was like, damn, I need to get a guitar. Yeah. And I'd messed around with the one my mom, she had like an old classical and like a plastic bag in the back of the closet that I didn't know was supposed to be there. Oh, yeah. But I've been playing it for years, and then got in a rush and got in a rush in high school, and just something about the intensity of Geddy's playing and him singing and playing bass. And from that point, the basis of my bands were three pieces where I usually sung and played bass. Wow. Okay. So that was such a huge influence, and it took me a while to get good because I was trying to play. It's not like I was like trying to play Running with the Devil. Right. Yeah. Right. I could have done that all day long. Yeah. But trying to play the song Free Will and singing and playing at the same time is a little bit tricky. God. But when I got it, which took me about a year and a half, of really digging deep, it had become like almost a religion to me or something. It became spiritual, and I kind of dedicated my life to it. And even before then, growing up in Philly, we had to, in the school district I was in at the time, you had to do as an elective at least one performance art play a year.
Oh, okay.
And we did like Bye Bye Birdie, Oklahoma, West Side Story, the classics.
Yes.
And I would actually do each one they played. I mean, they
wow. So you did everything.
Yeah, because I actually enjoyed it. And some kids, like, you had to. Yeah. But for me, I think I was a natural born ham, And luckily for me, my parents were, they noticed that and they nurtured that. And they allowed me to, to try a whole bunch of different stuff. I feel really, really lucky that, especially with my mother, she's an amazing, amazing person, really spiritual, and allowed us to kind of dig into who we were as people. And
that's awesome.
Like go to different churches with different friends from different religious backgrounds, see different cultures. Yeah. A friend of mine was having a bat mitzvah, go hang out with them, see what that's like. A friend of mine's doing this different thing. And we were allowed to experience so many different cultures. And that I think it was one of the greatest gifts that my folks ever gave me, because it kind of, I can pretty much, if someone's open-minded and willing to, you have to be open to receive and actually have a really good conversation.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Open, then I'm an easy person to get along with. And of course, every person you meet, it's a nice in theory, but you're, not naturally going to get along with every person. Right. Especially those people that we see those things within them that we haven't contended with within ourselves. Ooh. And it's like an interesting mirror. If you notice, if you think about it, and you seem like a really kind person, but most of the people, if you've ever had an issue with someone, especially the grading stuff, I went back and I was like, was there a commonality? Was there a common thread that ran through? Mm-hmm. And each of those people that I really was not feeling at all had something in me that I hadn't dealt with yet. Oh, wow. And to go through that thought process, because as men, we have this ego.
Oh, for sure.
And all this other stuff that blocks our spiritual growth. And, I never want to be someone stifled with my growth. I mean, even with music, I'm always listening to new sounds and new bands.
Oh, yeah?
And I'll be honest, just not a whole lot of new stuff in the past few years has really blown my mind.
After we're done with this, I'll throw out a couple people that I've had on the show that I think were amazing and very different. So I'll tell you a couple people to look out for. Maybe I can share a few things with you.
Send me over some links or something like that, because I'm always open. I guess like the last band that really did it for me was the Mars Volta.
Oh,
that really,
yeah.
Just as far as, because there's different kinds of music. There's the kind of stuff that's like music for entertainment, like something you go out and you're hanging out with your buddies and drinking. You want to listen to something simple, and you don't really want to listen to like Tool or Jeff Buckley
or Rush
or Rush on like a Sunday outing, and there are times for it. Yeah. So different music has different purposes. And so it's kind of like some people are meant to be these amazing, amazing virtuoso musicians. And when I first started, like I mentioned earlier, I was into like the whole prog rock thing. Yeah. But at the end of the day, the people that really, really like that aren't now, I guess, there's considered the listening public. It's like a lot of people want something simple. Yeah. It makes sense because life is so complex and crazy now that you need the anti, you need the yin for the yang, you need something to kind of balance it.
Well, it's also gone a weird route with streaming, things like Spotify. You know, music is so easily accessible now. You've got it on your phone. You can put it on your computer while you're working. You know, it used to be at least a little bit of an effort to go and put something on. You know, a record, you have to flip the sides. Cassette, you have to change the sides. Even a CD, you'd have to change it every once in a while. You'd have to go out and get it, put it on. You know, first of all, buy it, and then put it in a machine to play. You know, you didn't have to sit there and you just put on Spotify and just hit play, and it'll just play all kinds of stuff, and you're not even really paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's good. That's good and bad.
Oh yeah.
Part of the favorite, you know, my thing, like being a little kid and listening to a record and like an album and looking at the artwork.
Yes.
The credits and all that stuff. It was a part of the experience, and now it's kind of an afterthought.
Yeah, exactly. I have spoken to so many people about that. You know, I was a photographer in another life, and the artwork is really important to me on an album. And I don't care if it's vinyl or a CD cover, it's still artwork. But if I download something, I'm not going to sit there and stare at my computer at a JPEG on my screen and while I'm listening. I'm just not going to do it. And I used to love going through the liner notes. That's how I found some of my favorite bands, was looking at who that band that I was listening to thanked along the way. And like, oh, these guys liked this band, so let me check these guys out. And all that's kind of disappearing.
Yeah, but I mean, for folks that care about it, it's still there. Like, I've always been a fan of looking at producers and seeing the bands that they've produced.
Yeah.
Because from that, you know that they're not going to really mess with anybody that they're not going to be able to work with.
Right.
You know, because, you know, it wouldn't be beneficial for their career. So, you know, you're going to get a certain level of quality.
Yes, you know? That's a good point.
I mean, even with, you know, I'm so lucky to have one of my dear friends and producer, Jameson Durr, who produced the record. You know, he did a record for Sammy Hagar and the Circle.
Yes.
That debuted at #1 in 2019.
That's amazing.
You know,
that's incredible.
And I mean, think about it. You know, that's a classic artist. But if you can record something and still make it relevant with someone that was putting out hits in early 1970s,
yeah,
that says something.
Yeah,
just working with him, like I remember, and he works with Satriani, and
I love Satch.
Yeah, it was.
I've got
when I did the record, I got to record it in the room where they did Surfing with the Alien.
Oh, and man!
Instead, and all these records at Wally's Hideout and Hyde Street Studio C.
That's incredible. And I got to ask you about that in a minute, but I'll tell you real quick. I've got one little Satch story, and I think I've told it once on this podcast. But it's kind of funny. I used to work at a movie theater when I was a teenager, and yeah, in New Jersey. And one of the people I worked with was this lady named Sue Riccio, and her husband is a guy named John Riccio. John used to be in one of Joe's bands down in what was it, Long Island or Staten Island, one of the islands out there. And they've kept in touch throughout the years and all. So John had this little Strat, I think it was a Mexican Strat that he was trying to get rid of. And so I went, played it, and I bought it. It was like, it was a couple $100. It was no huge, incredible guitar, no history behind it or anything like that. So, in fact, I still have it. It's upstairs. But he started talking to Joe about it, and he's like, yeah, I sold this little Strat. I'm kind of regretting it now. I really liked how it played and all. He's like, yeah, sometimes you regret some of those kind of things. He's like, I've had a bunch where I regret doing that too. And so they're talking, they hang up, and like a week later, John comes home from work, and there's a crate on his front porch, and he opens it up, and it's a guitar from Joe, one of his one of his signature edition, I think one of the chrome guitars, and he said, here's a replacement for that Strat So the guitar that I bought, Joe replaced or Joe Satriani replaced for John Riccio because I bought his guitar. So that's about as close as
awesome.
That's about as close as I get to Satch.
Yeah, and it's a trip. But when I remember tracking at one point, and like I said, Jameson's he's one of my boys. He's one of my bros. But I was sitting there playing, and I kind of looked up, and he's kind of like, listening close to see what I was doing. And I was like, man, this guy's tracked Satriani and Sammy Hagar and Jason Bonham and Michael Anthony and Vic Johnson and all of these people. And I started just getting nervous, just instantaneously, just like, and then in his proper and classic Jameson, he was just like, it's all good, man, relax. And he kind of saw what was happening, said something, kind of broke it up, and then, okay, let's get back to it. And we knocked it out. That's all.
He saw you were getting in your own head.
Yeah. Man. But it's such an amazing thing just to have great people around. And I also have Kenny Olson, who played with Kid Rock back in the day.
Yeah.
Before he went to the dark side. I didn't say that. I love everyone, but he's just a fantastic musician.
Yeah.
And I sat in a couple times. He and Peter Keys, the keyboardist from Leonard Skinner, have a band called the All Time Low Stars.
Yeah, I saw some of that.
Yeah. And it was fun. It was kind of like the all-star, like everyone in the band was just a phenomenal musician. The last show I played with them was not this Halloween, but the last. And we had Bubba Sparks sitting in with us, Alexander King, who's like this. He's a cool guy.
Yeah.
He's like an original guy. Check out his music.
Yeah,
he's a really dope rapper.
Cool.
And I don't go around saying that. I'm like an old school hip hop fan.
Yeah.
And the guy just brings a magic to what he does. He has like a gazillion Instagram followers. He's one of those people that he'll get on and like 1,000 people are listening to him talk, because he's a real interesting guy. But it was just awesome to play in this project, to sit in and, I don't know what the future holds, because some people depends on if someone's there, who's in town, and availability. But, if nothing else, it got Kenny and I pretty close. And he actually played lead on the song Everybody's Losing Their Minds.
Oh, yeah.
Which was actually written before the pandemic. I wouldn't want to intentionally write this song like that. I think it would be kind of spiritually irresponsible.
So before we get too far into that, I got to ask you a couple questions. I want to find out a little bit more about what the house was like. So your dad played in the NFL. Were you into athletics as a kid at all? Was there any push towards sports?
No, there was never a push. My folks were always like, you have to figure out what your path is.
Oh, cool.
We just say, prepare yourself as much as you can.
Yeah. And
just try to do your best. So I had, I was lucky as an African-American in this country, having two college-educated parents. So there's a lot of things economically that we didn't have to go through that others had to, but my parents worked hard for that to be possible because they just wanted the best lives for us. And, but I was good at baseball and okay at football.
Yeah. That's my shirt. I got my Nats shirt on underneath my Alabama jacket. So.
Right. but I was okay at it. Nothing special,
Okay.
you know, because it was a weird pressure though, because everyone was like, "Hey, your dad played, we want him." It's like, I have someone else's genes too that might take might weaken the speed gene a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on. So,
But I can cook you a mean eggs Benedict.
right.
Yeah.
But it was one of these things where I just feel lucky that they kind of just let me try everything out. And like I said, I always gravitated towards the entertainment.
Yeah.
And then, moving to North Carolina in my early teens, and then right before then, I was in military school and that year before I got into like punk rock and the Ramones.
Oh, wow.
So I come from a soul background, then had cousins that were like turning me on to Hendrix and Zeppelin and Frampton and all the like the classics and Pink Floyd, like good Pink Floyd.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like Piper at the Gates of Dawn, the good stuff.
Yeah.
And I was always really lucky. My sister, she always turned me on to, she was another big influence, always turning me on to like Prince, Bootsy Collins,
oh yeah,
Switch,
nice.
the Jacksons. And so I've literally listened to everything and like even some country music like Patsy Cline.
Oh, I live in Winchester, Virginia, home of Patsy Cline.
How and interesting I would mention that, right? But
yeah,
she just had this amazing honesty and pureness about her voice. It's like,
yeah,
Stevie Nicks has that, and it's something that not to be. I hope this doesn't bite me in the ass, but there's something in a certain, like Tori Amos for a reason, another reason. She has something in her tone that's higher register that men don't produce.
Mm-hmm.
Not all men can produce these tones.
Right.
So there's a certain sweet spot that a few of these singers have that it's just like the effect of like a mother rocking a baby to sleep or something.
You know who
like,
does that?
Like it cradles you.
For me, it's Alison Krauss.
Mm-hmm.
I love her voice is so the clarity of her voice. There's like a purity to it. It's hard to describe, but yeah, that her voice does that to me too.
Oh yeah, I was never really too into Alison Krauss until that "Oh Brother Where Art Thou" soundtrack came out.
Oh yeah,
and interestingly enough, I was in New Orleans at Jazz Fest, and I had like a little show I was doing or something like that, or a magazine.
Okay.
Was supposed to interview Robert Plant and Alison Krauss.
Oh.
And that was the summer that Zeppelin was they'd already done that reunion show when people were saying, "Hey, are you guys going to, do a tour?"
Yep.
And so all the people that were talking to them were asking the same questions. So they shut the press down. And so I was like, dang it, because I really wanted to, it's great to talk to people you admire.
Yeah.
And I was kind of little disappointed, and I was like, someone went out drinking in New Orleans. Imagine that.
Oh yeah.
And about 9 o'clock in the morning, when I'm finally dragging my way back to the hotel, I come past I think it was like an Omni, and there's like a big tour bus out, and I'm like trying to pretend like I'm just like I'm cool, but I'm really pretty drunk.
Yeah.
And I almost run into this guy. And I was like, "I'm sorry." And I was like, "Oh, Robert Plant. Well, looky there."
Wow.
And so I was like, that was one time I was kind of gassed meeting someone. Like I was gassed meeting Prince.
Oh, wow.
Or seeing him close, not meeting him officially. But I was in the orb. I was I was within the constellation.
Yeah.
But
his gravitational pull.
Yes, which was immense. But yeah, he was a great guy.
That's awesome.
But that's to bring it back around to Alison Krauss. She's another one that has. That's the thing that's great about music. It's like you have to be open-minded, and there's a lot of people who's like, I would never listen to country, but there's good music in every genre.
Absolutely.
I just think with a lot of like modern country and stuff like that, I think it's a bit confusing because you'll see a dude singing like country stuff with a Metallica shirt on and some like blinged out jeans and like a pair of $5,000 biker boots on.
Exactly.
And it's kind of like it's not and not like, you have to be country, you have to wear this, but it's so, you can't tell. The line is so blurry now.
Yeah, it's kind of lost its identity. And I blame Garth Brooks specifically for this, but that'll get me in trouble. I'm sure he'll be listening, so he won't return my phone calls anymore. But I feel like he kind of rockified country a little bit, and maybe he sped it up. I don't know. Maybe it was inevitable, but I don't know. I don't like when you can't. I don't know. It's hard to put into words, but it's. I don't like when you can't tell if something's a country song or a rock song.
When you don't like when you don't. I'll put it in layman's terms. You don't like it when you don't know what the hell it is you're listening to.
Okay, that's a much better way to say it.
and it makes a lot of sense, but then again, the argument with that is artistic expression.
That's true.
But how many of those people were coming from a pure point of artistic expression, or were they sitting down in the boardroom with their label, looking at, surmising what kind of charts and the tempo of the charts, what's the average tempo of the songs that are on the charts? And there are people that are digging that deep.
Oh, yeah.
And I think when you make decisions like that, you might hit one record and get lucky, but you're not going to build anything because it's coming from a place it's coming from the head and not the heart.
We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors. Yeah, it's one thing that I've had a big discussion with a lot of people is metrics, and I think a lot of country music is based on metrics at this point. What are the lyrics that are popular? What are the types of subject? What's the subject matter that people are listening to? And it's, to me, it's just, if there's certain, and there are great country acts out there. I mean, there's still amazing artists out there, but it's not the stuff that you hear on the on the radio most of the time. If you've built an entire career, like, all right, and this is the guy that has always been my punching bag for this. I don't know if you remember this country artist, guy named Joe Diffie. Half of his stuff, to me, or all of it sounds like it's all throwaway music. It's all stuff that you could just, it's the same song recycled over and over again, just a few different lyrics, maybe a different solo here, but it's all the same, and it's all just stupid lyrics about meeting a girl in a pickup truck and getting drunk.
Mm-hmm. But if that's his lane and he has to earn a living, the argument is, see, the thing about it is, the beauty is there's something out there for everyone.
Yeah. Oh, I know plenty of people who liked it.
I mean, I know plenty of people that, I used to know a lot of people that like that kind of stuff. But some people need that entertainment. Some people, like I was saying earlier, don't want the whole heaviness of it. They want it to be light. They wanted to, and there are different kinds of people. There are people that aren't deep people. There are people that are simple people. They work hard. They want to get off of work. They want to have a couple beers. They want to shoot a game of pool, and they want to, they don't want anything crazy. They don't want to sit there and
they want a fun song.
Right. They don't want to sit there and decipher things and all that. They just want to be entertained.
Yeah.
And then there are people who look at it more like the art of it, and the beauty is that there's something out there for everyone.
Yeah.
So my thing as an artist is my responsibility. The thing that I can do, and the only thing I can control is the quality and the intention of the things that I create. Like, am I looking at the charts and going, oh, what's popular now? What's popular now? Think about it like this, like Guns N' Roses back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
They were groundbreaking.
Yeah.
Earth-shattering, groundbreaking. You name it.
Yeah.
They got to a point where 10 years later or something, he kept writing these, like the Chinese Democracy, and they would go back in the studio and record and try to work with this producer that worked with Limp Bizkit or something. And then a year later, after they got that done and worked with this, and if the times are off, forgive me, but the point being, after a while, when you're chasing a trend, by the time you find the trend and do all the work, the trend has already shifted to something else.
Yeah.
So it seemed like a stutter. It was like starting up. Okay, now we're stuttering. Starting up. Okay, now, and when you have that process compared to digging deep, but an argument on the other side is when someone is a gazillionaire, their pain that they're writing, their point of pain that they're writing, point of pain works in everything from sales to music.
Right.
Find the pain points. Oh, it's like, my girl left me. I'm poor. I'm struggling. My apartment has roaches.
Yeah.
But when you get rich, it's like, you're like, oh my God, my accountant is sleeping with my cousin. The songs, the subject matters get different. And so you have to go to the same familiar place to be able to relate.
Yeah.
Because unfortunately, some of the audience won't let an artist grow.
Yeah.
Like if you heard Metallica put out a reggae record, just the thought of it's freaking hilarious.
Yeah.
Because they have their lane. They go fast and they can slow it up and go pretty, but it's those two gears.
But nobody liked it when they changed gears and did load and reload. That was really controversial.
Mm-hmm. But as artists, why not put it out there and see if it works? Because they could have put that out and it could have been their biggest selling records.
Yeah.
Or they put it out. That's why one thing with this record especially, before settling on the 12 songs, I pretty much had about 30 that I'd written.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And I didn't want to make it just one speed the whole time. I wanted to make it like up and down, lows and peaks and valleys and points, and then smooth out.
Yeah.
To make it like the listeners going on a ride.
That's okay. So I'll make one more point, and then we'll get around to the album but it ties into that because your album, the new album from the Neverlutionaries, is really varied in styles of music and sounds, and you can hear a lot of different influences in the music and in your singing and all kinds of stuff. And you mentioned being a fan of Tool, and I wanted to ask your opinion on this because I'm still torn on their last album. I was listening. I haven't even bought it yet, but I've listened to it a few times, and I'm having a hard time wanting to buy it because to me it kind of sounds like a lot of the previous two albums, 10,000 Days and Lateralis. The triplets, the bass triplets, and then it sounds to me, it sounds like the only thing that changed is maybe Danny Carey's drum kit, and not even his drumming, just the kit he's playing on sounds a little different. What did you think of the album? Because you did mention being a Tool fan.
I thought it was beautiful.
Yeah.
I loved everything from the order of the songs, and there's a song called Tempest.
Yes. Which
is one of my favorite Tool songs ever. But that's another argument for they know their lane. Yeah. If they would have started playing like something that sounded like what's that guy, like the cowboy, the cowboy guy that sings a song with the God, I can't think of the name. He's like the African American cowboy fella with the hat.
Yeah. I know. I can't remember his name.
You start going there and stuff like that. It's like, but this record, that's who they are. That's their identity. And I think the thing for them is to not really everything is based on that first record and the variances and twists and turns, but the core that goes through it started with that first record. Yeah. And I think it's kind of cool that they have because luckily enough, when you have a Danny Carey and and he's the star of the band as far as I'm concerned, you can't really go wrong. And I think the songs translate very well. Okay. And for me, I was kind of like, oh, I hope it's good, because there's nothing worse than having a band that you love and have loved for years, and them giving you a crappy record, or not a crappy record, but a record you're not feeling at the time.
Yeah.
But that's part of it. But I think, just saying, like, if they would have put out a reggae record, people would have been more flipped out. But I think him, for the sounds, and I'm a big fan of production and bass sounds and guitar sounds and drum sounds, and especially for me, the drum sound is where it starts, because the foundation, if they're not recorded, and his drums are always so crisp and clear and full, it's like he's in the room playing with you. And I thought it was an amazing record. But like I said, it really depends on expectations that are realistic.
Yeah.
Are you going to look for a band that's defined their sound like this for years to shift? That's why at this point of getting things really rolling with this band, I wanted to have a precedent of having varied sounds, so I would never be painted into a corner, and so that I would have, it's more likely that, if an artist is going to have a few different styles within their thing, that's a part of their sound, they might switch up and change.
Yeah.
Compared to, like, okay, you stay in lane Z over here, and that's your lane. You stay the hell there.
Yeah.
We're going to build the walls really tall so you can never get out of the lane.
Exactly. And that's, I've noticed that really wasn't the case back in, let's say, like the 80s. You notice artists were a lot more open to experimenting and doing different styles of music, different on their album. You'd have like an album of 10 tracks, and you'd have a bunch of different styles within those 10 tracks. And I noticed you don't see that as much anymore. And your album is kind of a refreshing change from that.
Oh, thank you so much. And that, I'm glad you got that, Mark, because that was one of the things I set out and I had as a goal, is I wanted people to appreciate the diversity, but I also had to make the songs that were the more different kinds of songs, like the Unconditionallys, the Ellis Streets, the Arianas. I wanted to make it, they still had to have a power to them, because I wouldn't want to be one of these acts that, it's like, oh man, he's doing the Neverlutionaries Unplugged. Right. Because some songs don't translate very well.
No.
Especially with something that's kind of like down, like that down Metallica down sort.
Yeah.
On the guitar, on the acoustic, it sounds like a mess. It sounds like a child beating on an instrument or something.
That's true.
So you have to be, it's a tricky thing, but I always want to make sure that diversity is a part of my music, because it's a part of my life. I'm like, every day is not going to be Old Town Road. Every day is not going to be Fight Fire with Fire. Every day is not going to be Light My Fire. Every day is not going to be Who Got the Fire. It depends on the day. So there's certain songs, like I was actually having a conversation with my stepmom, and I was like, check it out. I'm like, I know it's kind of, hard and rock. And she's like, no, you should put a little something there for everybody. And I was like, that's really cool that she got that.
Yeah.
Because I remember when I got back from finishing the record, I dropped by to visit them when I got back into North Carolina, and I played the song for her and my pop, and they both liked it. And, it wasn't that friendly, oh, isn't that special? Yeah. Which really means you're crazy or it sucks.
Yep.
But I didn't get that. I got an actual kind of and that's kind of, at the end of the day, you always want that approval,
Yep. Oh, yeah.
Even though you can be a grown-ass man, but something about them going, I don't know, it sucks.
Yeah.
Like I'm sure there's songs that are like drop tuning with weird backwards solos and, a bunch of mess of boogie mess screaming in the background might not be to the liking, but I want something on there, someone might be able to find there's some funky on there.
Yeah.
There's laid back stuff. There's some jazzy kind of avant-garde stuff.
Oh, God, yeah. I want to find out a little bit about the creation of this whole, and I'm going to call it a project. I'm not sure if how you're looking at it, but how did you come up with the name?
I was having a conversation with a friend of mine. He actually played on the record as well, Johnny Axtell. And I don't know if he came up with the name or I came up with the name, but I know I was talking with him and I was like, ooh, that sounds interesting, because I've always kind of liked the kind of, I don't know, like my first band I was in that did something decent was called Peasants of the Apocalypse.
I've heard a couple of tracks and I liked that. Mindgasm was great.
The other morning when I woke up, I could have sworn I had a mindgasm. Thoughts racing in my head like the memories of the past. Mind. I had a mind. I had a mind. I had a mind.
Yeah, so the Neverlutionaries is pretty much like the next level, so it's essentially, I did most of the guitars except for a couple songs Johnny was on and the song Kenny was on. And I had a buddy of mine, Ryan Hickey, playing on Ariana, and Chris McGrew played drums on a bunch of it, and then Nick Baglio rounded it out, and Nick's played with everybody from Vernon Reed. And,
I love Vernon.
What's that guy's name? Nile Rodgers.
Oh, wow.
He's like this phenom drummer that's been playing since, I think his dad's a drummer, and he's been playing since he was like a kid.
Wow.
And he's just, it's some people you watch him play and it's like, oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Other people, they have a gift, like I've figured out my place by happenstance and being clever. Yeah. But his place was like, someone's like, here you are. Take that.
Yeah. You've been touched.
So my thing is in the future is to have a couple guest stars on each record, people that can bring a little bit of energy, something different.
Oh, cool.
To kind of show a variance in it. So it's not just all me, but at the same point, I have a vision and I know exactly what I want.
Yeah.
And it's a lot easier for me to, especially with, the way things are now with lockdowns, kind of do all the stuff myself. And that way I know it'll be done to my liking.
Hey, well, that makes sense.
Instead of like, okay, no. But it's interesting. I had to learn the hard way when I was in one of my previous bands.
Yeah.
One of the members got in some legal trouble and we couldn't tour and do anything. And it was just like, then the guitar player got in some trouble.
Oh, no.
So I figured out I learned how to program drums and I learned how to play guitar.
Out of necessity.
So out of necessity. And, there are guys out there that I would never sit there and try to even compare myself to any kind of virtuoso, but I have my thing, like I said, I see the whole picture in my head, and my challenge is to, like when I view the marble, I already see the statue per se.
Right.
So my challenge is to get the statue out and then do something else cool at the bottom and bling him out to make it really cool. So
yeah.
Yeah.
So when you went in to record all these, and this was recorded before the pandemic hit, was it?
3/4 of it were, about 70% of it was done before the pandemic hit. Literally, when I flew back to the East Coast, I was the only one in the airport, one of the few people wearing masks.
Oh, wow.
But I figured it out.
Yeah.
I figured it out because even when I was doing, the record, for a couple of weeks, I was feeling squirrely as hell. And my air was bad. I couldn't really get a deep breath, and then it felt like I had pains in my chest, and it sounds like I may have had the virus when I was doing it.
It's possible.
Like I was literally having problems breathing and all this stuff, but luckily I got over it. And then when I went to NAMM, everyone was talking about having this NAMthrax.
Oh, God.
And there's all these people from all over the world in this small space. And I wondered, that was like it was probably like the first super spreader event that they won't even say that really happened.
Wow, I didn't think that.
think about it though.
Yeah.
If you think about when it started and where it started from, and when people were getting sick, a lot of people that got it at first thought they were just having a flu.
Yeah.
Why go get tested for it when you don't know that's what you need to be tested for? Yeah,
exactly.
And then a few months after that, when I went and got like an antibody test, of course, at that point, it was over 6 months since I thought I might have been sick. And so the antibodies were long gone.
Yeah.
So it's been tricky, but all that to say, so 70% of it was recorded there.
Okay.
And then I did the rest of it. I kind of had to finish it, on the East Coast.
Okay.
And then kind of get the tracks and get some tracks from Nick, and then re-record my parts over the parts that he did, and send it to Jameson to mix. And we had this awesome process. And, but it worked out. And it was really, I think the extra songs kind of perfectly rounded it out, because I was like, it was supposed to be an EP at first.
Oh, wow.
Well, I guess they're cool. And I'm kind of hard on myself and listening to things. I was like, well, maybe that's not good enough. And so a couple things that I thought wouldn't necessarily had made the record, after I listened to them with fresh ears a month later, I loved the song. But I think my ears were fatigued. And when you're mixing, you're listening to it like literally, sometimes I listen to a song like 50 times.
Wow.
And I'll just, again, and because I know what I'm looking for. And then when I get to the point where I start getting the goosebumps when the lead kicks in, I was like, oh, there it is.
Yeah.
And then I stop. Then I stop. It's like you have to know when to, like, it's done, and hold back. And it's such a delicate line, because you can overproduce the shit out of something.
Yeah.
And you could take the soul out of it. Or you can underproduce it and it can sound too crappy. And then you're stuck with it.
So you gotta hit that goosebump factor.
It's all about the GBs, not the BGs. The GBs.
Speaking of that, you've got some incredibly lush tracks on the album, like the first single, Ariana. It's gorgeous. The only issue that I've found with it is that it's only 3 minutes long.
Across field, just a moment of your time. I wonder, could I make you mine?
Because by the end of it, I'm still wanting to hear more of it. But then the song's over, and I'm like, all right, now I just got to go back and hear it again. So you're making me want more.
That was the intention. Because if I had a couple of versions of that in the original demo where it was about a minute and 15 seconds long or something.
Oh, okay.
I mean, Rain Boy. But I took the part out because it seemed like I was trying to be epic instead of it naturally being epic.
Okay.
We're just like, oh, wow, it just turned out that the way this thing built up, and compared to like, let me tack that on here and tack that on the back end here. And now it's a bunch of tacked on shit. Now here, take it.
Yeah.
It just seemed, and I wanted it to kind of be like, and for people to say, you know what, and then go through the album and go, you know what, there's not another one that sounds like that, but that sounded cool. And that sounded cool. And then the next time we put the next record out, people's curiosity will be piqued because they know they're getting something that's, and like I said, there's stuff that, I'm not trying to be the best and the greatest. It's not some pissing contest. It's no ego. I just want to put out great art that comes from a pure place. Because I've seen people put out stuff from their butts that did not come from a pure place. It came from a bad, stinky place.
Yeah. Well, one of the songs that did not come from that, and it's, you had mentioned listening to the album and then thinking, I want to go back and listen to that. And Precious Eyes is one of those tracks for me. I love that song. Oh, good. Oh, awesome. It's gorgeous. And it's one of the tracks. And again, you can tell me if I'm right or if I'm wrong here, but lyrically, it's a beautiful album, but there seems to be like a lot of pain and loss throughout this album lyrically. Am I picking that up right? Or am I all full of crap?
Mr. Shea, you're a one smart cookie, man. It's even on that one. That was written about, I had a friend of mine who was this beautiful girl who'd been through had some tough breaks in life. And she actually, the day after Trump took office, she took her life.
Oh, wow.
And there's some of that in there. The Earthbound Angel, why'd you go?
Yeah.
Earthbound Angel, was it too cold? And it's like she seemed too sweet to be. Like she wasn't, like you meet some people and they're like Neanderthal type people. They can make it anywhere, like cockroaches,
Right.
You can drop a house on them, they'll come like, ooh, ouch, scratch back. But she was one of these people that was just delicate and pure, just wanted people to like her. And just didn't get the love back from life that she thought she was going to get.
Oh, God.
And I wanted to commemorate that, but honor her, but be honest about it.
Right.
So the mood in the song is slightly spooky because I love the minor stuff.
Yeah.
But it pulls you in. It's like a psychedelic Aesop's fables. Yeah. Come on, sit over here, kids. Let me tell you this crazy ass story about this girl I know. But I'm glad you like that one because that's one that was one of the last ones finished.
Oh, wow. It's one of my favorites on the album as a whole.
Yeah.
I love that song.
Yeah, and Nick just did such a fantastic job with the beat because I wanted something that was kind of like something kind of drunkenly creeping along.
Yeah.
It sounded like James Brown, like if he had like Jägermeister and some absinthe. And he was at the club and they slowed the music down. He was like, how you there? Get up on this.
Oh.
So, it was just something a little funky like that. But I like that was definitely fun. That's something that most of that was like one take for me.
Wow.
Which a lot of the stuff is like L Street was one take on the vocal for that.
Really?
I was walking. High Street is in the Tenderloin in San Francisco. San
Francisco, yeah.
Which is a rough kind of neighborhood. I don't know why they call it the Tenderloin. They should call it the Rum Roast. But I was walking from where I was staying down to the studio. And on the way, I saw this beautiful girl. She was just beautiful, but she was homeless, had tracks on her arms, laying on the street. But she looked beautiful, like she still had a part of her humanity left and hadn't gone completely to the dark side.
Yeah.
And so that song was pretty much like, what was her life like before? Because every person you see like that, that's somebody's mother, someone's brother, someone's father, someone's baby.
Yeah.
At one point, someone held that person in their arms and looked at them with all the hope and the joy in the world and wishing them the best life they could have. And whether it's mental illness, lack of medication, hiccups in the health system, or just people that have drug issues. It's hard. Everyone has been through their thing. You know,
for sure.
I know, you know, I've had my bouts. I used to party like a damn donkey when I was a kid, you know, but after a while, especially seeing a lot of, I put my brakes on a bit earlier than a lot of my friends did. And, I've lost a lot of people, so even in this record, it's honest. I wish the next one could be called Butterflies and Sunshine.
Yeah.
And if I experience butterflies and sunshine, then that's what I'll write about.
Right.
But I have to kind of come from an honest place, because even you were able to understand the mood of that song and the intention of that song. Right. So that to me is success. Some people would think success is selling, it'd be great to sell, 10 million records, whatever,
Yeah.
I just want people to dig what I'm saying and know that, that I'm a voice that should be listened to, that I have something interesting to say.
Well, you do. And one of the songs that really exemplifies that to me anyway is Hopped Up on Crazy.
I got an angel on my shoulder with a broken wing. Hopped up on crazy. You already know. Everyone's running with nowhere to go.
First of all, that's a great title, but I love the lyrics and the message to while you're still living, everything is possible. That to me it's so simple, but it's so perfect.
Yeah, it comes down to like that song was about being in weird situations. I make things kind of cryptic is not to be able to make connections, to keep the innocent as innocent. But it was just stuff that I've been through and seen people going through, and I kind of put it all together. And, the whole thing of that song is like, there's always hope while you're here, while you're still living, anything is possible,
I agree.
And that's true.
Yeah.
You can hold yourself in a point of darkness and depression to the point where it becomes your essence and who you are and takes over the life you were supposed to be. Or you can process it, get through with it, and move on and try to make the best of it. And that's some hard, especially now, man, that's some hard stuff, man. Like when this first started, Mark, I sat there, when the pandemic first began, and I looked at CNN for like 18 hours a day.
Wow. Because
I was so afraid because of relatives that had pre-existing conditions.
Yep.
Not being able to visit my family who I'm close with as much as I want to. Having a fear of, well, I know I could go, but if I got my family sick and something happened to them, I would have a really curious life from that point on.
Yeah.
And as much as my heart hurt not to go and visit them, I wasn't going to be one of these, knuckleheads like, oh, screw wearing a mask, man. I'm not having you take my rights away. It's like, all right, survival of the fittest. If you don't want to wear a mask and you want to go out and hang out with your buddies, then that's Darwinism doing its thing. It's tricky, but luckily I was able to get through it. And I literally didn't write a note from that moment until about May.
Oh, wow.
Last May. And then all of a sudden, I had one of those effort moments, like time to get off the pot or do what you need to do.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, this is going to be it. I might as well really go deep on this one and put songs out that aren't the easiest ones to digest, possibly.
Right.
But were the realest. Because I want this to be something that people listen to and they're not like, eh. They're like, you know what? I get where he's going.
Yeah.
And I appreciate when, people like yourself who I know you hear so much stuff. I can imagine. But the fact that you wanted to listen to things over again and things struck you, and that doesn't happen with every recording you get.
No,
I know that. I get records that, I've had of bands that I loved, and they're just at, when I first got into this band, their lives were one way and the art dictated this. And later on, it dictates something else,
Yeah.
So I just wanted to keep it real.
You're incredibly adept at mixing genres, and that's what I love about this album. It's definitely not boring. You've got so many different sounds and atmospheres going on, ambiances, and it keeps you engaged in the album the entire time, which is unusual nowadays. So it's that changing and mixing of genres for me is really appreciated. I really enjoyed it.
Hopefully, like I mentioned earlier, there are people that are more technically advanced and all this stuff, but my thing is that my voice is kind of the continuity that goes throughout the whole thing, that ties it all together.
Yeah.
And the textures just kind of shift. And in the future, like I have a bunch of crazy electronic stuff.
Oh, wow.
That's really far out with them. Definitely going to get on the next one, but I kind of want to ease people into it. It's like, Frank Zappa's first record, like, here, check this out. They're like, what?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like, here you go. Here's this one. Okay, now here's a little bit of the big spoon.
Yeah.
All right, here's the spork.
Yeah. So with things possibly opening up in the future, relative near future, are you putting plans together to hopefully tour behind this album?
Yes, indeed.
Oh, good.
I have. My goal is to, even before the record came out, I was supposed to fly back home, visit my folks, fly back out to San Francisco, then fly to Paris.
Wow.
To start doing shows over there. I wanted to play over there and then come back to the States. So that's still kind of what the plan is.
Okay.
So I have a couple of, nothing's been signed and dotted yet, but a couple of notable cats that'll be with me, and I'll keep you posted.
Oh, nice.
But Kenny also might be there for a couple shows.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Yeah,
man.
And, it's going to be. I really want to entertain people because people deserve it, and that's what the cosmos put me here for. That's why I was made.
Well,
so I want to do my due.
I hope you make it down to the DC area, because I definitely want to catch a live show of this music, because the studio version sounds amazing. I can't wait to see it live and hear it live.
Yeah. And the way I record is, have you ever listened to one of these records and you hear all these sounds and things that you like on the record and little bells and whistles, and then when you go see the band live, now it's about to be on, and you're like, oh, where's that part? That's different. Oh,
something
that's
missing.
Opposite. I'd rather just be real solid with the record, and then for the live show, just buff it up a little bit, make it shinier.
Oh, nice.
I really want to entertain people. Like when people, go to a show, it's like, instead of being like, man, I want to be like, you know what? That was like going to a movie or going to a theatrical production. I wanted to be, just people deserve it.
Yeah.
People deserve it. Everyone's been through so much stuff. People have been losing folks and getting sick, and everybody's been scared as shit for a year.
Cooped up.
Yep. And so now's the time for me to do what I was put here to do. I want to, my whole thing is, hopefully whenever touring can begin, I want to be all fully vaccinated, and a couple of guys I'm going to be jamming with are already getting vaccinated. We're already in that process. And,
nice.
So we can kind of get things going.
Yeah.
And hopefully within the next month and a half or so, I'll head back out to San Francisco. It's just so super populated there. Just being somewhere less populated just mentally makes me feel a little bit better.
Yeah.
Like going into a store and there's like 90 people there compared to like 10.
Yeah.
So that's the goal, is to kind of take this time to, you know, sharpen up the licks. And I've been, you know, rehearsing. So before I bring the fellas in, I have to be at the best level possible.
Yeah.
Because I feel like it's an honorable duty. I have to do my best. You know, Pop told me that when I was a kid. He's like, whatever you do, just be your best.
Yeah.
Try your hardest. And at the end of the day, you can't be satisfied, and you can, you know, rest knowing that you put all you had into it.
That's awesome.
You know?
Well,
So,
where can people pick up the album? How can they find it and follow you on social media to get all the information about hopefully upcoming tours?
yes, you can find me on Instagram under the Neverlutionaries. The album is, you can get it. People can pick it up on iTunes or whatever online music retailer you get your music from. It's on Spotify. Just do a search for it on Instagram. It's the Neverlutionaries. On Twitter, it's at the Neverlutionary One. And check out our Facebook page. Like the pages. Let me know how you're feeling about the music. It's coming from a good place. And my goal is to rock you and you and you and you and you.
Awesome. That's fantastic, man. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate it, man. I've kept you for quite a while here. Thank you so much, man.
No problem at all.
Floating aimlessly in a course passage back through time. In my mind is defined